Welcome in, everybody, to the Creed of Crypto podcast, where we provide immersive, essential, and evergreen strategies for the novice cryptocurrency investor. How you doing? I am one half of your host, Broke Boi Crypto. I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host, Crypto Ewok. We're going to bring him in just a second. We have a lot to talk about tonight. If you are only listening on the back end, the thumbnail kind of explains it all. We're going to talk a lot about regulation tonight. There's been a lot of news, obviously, with Gary Gensler and friends from the SEC over the last couple of days, considering Kraken, some stable coin entities, stuff like that. So we're going to get to that in a moment. Also, BTC, epic green candles. Are we in a bull market officially now? We'll probably fight about that as well. But let's bring in Ewok. How you doing, Ewok? How you feeling tonight? What do you think about the markets? How's it going?
I'm good. It's it's what I thought it was going to be. Like I said, I still don't think we're there yet, like you do. Seeing a lot of things on the chart that just don't quite jive with the prices right now, but I'm doing good. Hex is doing fantastic, taking a page from their book. If everything else could do that, we'd be in good shape. I think that bear market might be over. So I'm sure we'll get into that too. But yeah, doing good.
Yeah, we'll let you know who we are real quick. Again, I'm Broke Boi Crypto. You can find me on YouTube and on Twitter at Broke BOI Crypto. YouTube channel is dedicated to living a minimalist financial lifestyle and investing in cryptocurrency to attain self-sovereignty. Ewok, where can everybody find you?
I am Crypto Ewok on Twitter and Crypto Ewok 5555 on YouTube.
Yes, sir. So yeah, let's get right down to brass tacks. So yeah, BTC over the last couple of days since the CPI print, which we got, my God, it seems so long ago already. I guess that was Monday at this point. No, Tuesday. I don't know. Whatever Valentine's Day was. Yeah, Tuesday. So we got the CPI print. It apparently was a miss based on what most of the market was thinking we would be at. They were pegging it at about 6.2%. It came in at 6.4. Big whoop. If you're listening, I mean, that's 0.2%. But, usually something like that, any sign of a miss, the market tends to get pretty bearish if they've really been pricing something in. Well, we were bearish. There was a pretty relatively sizable dip, not really by crypto standards, leading up into the CPI print Monday into Tuesday. But that did not last long. We had a little bit of a pump off the news the afternoon of Valentine's Day. And then coming into today, where we have seen the highest BTC price of 2023 so far, which isn't necessarily saying a lot. It's been 6 weeks. But with how much this market has been depressed for practically a damn year, it is interesting to see the action we've seen. It did blast through 24K, which was a pretty big level of resistance that some people wanted to see if it could break. And just narrowly, I don't know if it actually touched 25K. 24.9 it just touched. So not quite the 25K yet. A lot of people, including Ewok right here, have been calling that 25.5K roughly as the breaking point, where if we would blast through that and kind of consistently start trading over that for a couple of days, even Ewok and some other people would concede that the bear market is indeed over. So lots of good stuff in terms of price anyway. Not necessarily great stuff as far as the CPI print, but we're going to get into all that. It's going to be interesting. It wasn't quite what expectations were, but Ewok has the BTC chart up. Let's take a look at it here. And Ewok, what are your thoughts on this reaction to the CPI? Because it kind of went not only the opposite direction of what some people thought, but quite far in the opposite direction. So,
yeah, kind of like you and I were just chatting before we went live. I see a lot of problems here. I'm happy it is having a nice little run. However, when you have a bunch of green candles like this and your volume is consistently coming down, it's a pretty bearish divergence. It's looking like, and we still haven't hit that that key 25.2 level that I was looking at.
right.
And it really did just bounce off the 200-week moving average. I mean, it literally hit it and stopped. It might have wicked through it just a hair, but it's and I think it's coming back down right now. So I don't know. I'm seeing too many bearish things to be positive about. Good green candles are always good for, like I had said before, it helps people get out of that funk of the really long bear market that we're having. I just don't think we're in the clear yet.
Well, you're not the only one, although I don't think you're as bearish as some people who've, kind of rooted their heels into this as their like identity necessarily or anything. But
Yeah.
I mean, either way, I mean, like there's definitely been some really good developments just without looking even at a chart, although that is necessary. I mean, just kind of the reaction from the price of Bitcoin to some of the things that have happened in the last few days. CPI, we're going to get to some of the Gary Gensler and friends from the SEC and what's been going on there. Apparently, crypto, the BTC anyway, doesn't really care about that either. But I mean, as far as the chart, though, I mean, we have been trading above some pretty key levels for a little while here, as well as the timing of the 4-year cycle, which I hate to be like robotic with that. And I'm not saying that necessarily is going to last forever and that's always going to be our benchmark, but the 4-year cycle, as implied by 4-year, is a time-based cycle. And yeah, look, I mean, just as far out as we are right now with the descent into the bear market in November of 2021, and now being about 15 months on past that, I just feel like this is the beginning stages. And I guess we can both kind of be right here, Ewok, because you were just saying to me off air before we went on, that it's not like you're sitting here necessarily still saying 10, 11, 12K or anything like that. You have to
No.
adapt to new information, but you're talking about like maybe a bounce off of around the areas of the previous lows, which were
Yeah.
like in the low 15K. So
Yeah,
where
I
do we
think we
stand on that?
need to at least tap that area, and see if it will hold. And if it holds support, then that could be our bottom. I do think we're gonna, play around and get back to those levels, though. At least it's gonna try anyway. I think there's some gaps. With the CMEs, a lot of time the Chicago Mercantile Exchange,
Mhm.
when things move quickly and bounce around and they don't stick in an area too often, there are gaps that just don't get filled. Um, and always historically, things will come back to those levels to refill so that it can move on again. I had heard at one point there were still gaps at 9,800 that never got filled from the last
Right.
time.
I've heard that before too. Yeah.
So, and I think maybe that was one of the reasons Richard Hart had said 11K and pray, because he knew those levels were still there as well. We'll have to see. Like I said, I think at the very worst case, we will definitely probably tap that area. I shouldn't say definitely, but my prediction is that I think we're gonna take another dip and get back to those areas before we really take off. We're still when is the happening? Is it April of 24?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I
So
believe that.
we're still not at that year mark. Historically, things start to kind of take off around that level. I think it's usually about a year before the halvening is when things start to pump, and then the halvening happens and things go crazy. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, still a ways off till we go crazy, of course. But yeah, definitely some positive action here. I want to go back real quick before we continue looking at price. So with the CPI, so again, it came in at 6.4%. Everybody was expecting 6.2%. Again, that doesn't really sound like all that much, but market pumping off of it. What I'm interested in to ask you here, Ewok, is with the inflation not only not going down, but not going down to the level that was thought. It leads me to the question. So we had been speculating, and a lot of people had, that the next FOMC meeting in March, I think it's the 22nd or something like that. Um, a lot of people have been speculating that could be where the Fed pivots, meaning like no more rate increases. I
Mm.
don't think that's going to be the case, especially now with this reading. I already didn't really think that would be the case. I think that would have been a bit surprising. But at this point, I would, if I were a betting man, which I guess I kind of am, I would bet that they are going to raise them again,
Yeah.
at least at a quarter mark anyway. We're going to have to kind of read the tea leaves and see what Jerome Powell waffles on about and stuff like that. But I'm sure you're probably in agreement. It's hard to forecast out at this point because we've seen some positive changes. It's hard to forecast out past one meeting. I can't really go into May and say what I think would happen. But as far as March, I think we're probably getting another quarter point anyway. And I think there are some people that are still thinking a whole half of a point. So what say you? I mean, what do you think this reading could mean for Jerome Powell and his buddies?
I'm leaning closer to the half. The rate was not near where it needed to be. And as I told you, it was what it made a 0.3% change. And it's to get where they really need to be at the rate that we're moving now, it's going to take years. So I think they may go a little heavier. The possibility, I think that a half a point, and then they kind of maybe start to ease back from there. But like you said, a couple months is way too long to even try to guess to see how things will play out, especially with these yahoos that I think they're just trying stuff again. I think I said it before, we throw stuff at a wall and see what sticks, right? See what works out, see who we piss off, and see how much it actually helps what we're trying to accomplish. I do know the jobs market is still really strong. At the same time, wages are coming down a little bit. So, there's not a whole bunch of competition for all these openings that are there because they're just not paying what they were. So, that's all this stuff takes a while to play out. It really does. It takes months and months to see the fruits of the labor that we're doing now. We'll see how it plays out. Someone had went through all the different prices, and bread is up 14%, and vegetables are up 18%, and like all these different statistics, they're still, there's the prices of everything is still up.
Right.
And then you get your eggs that is, I forget, someone said it was 78% higher than it was this time last year.
That sounds about right. Yeah. But I'll tell you this, I think I said it on last week's show. Not even joking. I think I got, it was an 18 pack, whatever, carton for like $4.20 or something like that the other day. So that's normal. I mean, that's kind of back down. So maybe it was just where I purchased it from. But anyway.
Well, probably. And I haven't seen in our, in our area, I haven't seen crazy prices like $7 a dozen. I haven't seen that. And I usually shop for our household once a week. So I have not seen the type of prices that they're seeing in other places. So,
yeah. And technically what you're describing is what CPI is. It is like a collection of different inflation rates from all kinds of different, sources and things like that. So yeah, it depending upon who you are and how you kind of move about the world and what you purchase and stuff like that, it's obviously going to affect you in different ways. It is interesting, and everybody has that anecdotal evidence as far as inflation when you're at the store seeing different things. If you were unfortunate or dumb enough or whatever, I don't know, to buy a house this year, with the interest rates and everything, obviously you've seen that, as well as the price of real estate right now. But yeah, there's a lot still out there. So yeah, we're not out of the woods. We have seen improvements for sure, as Powell has said, but yeah, it's clearly not out of the woods yet. So I want to talk about, let me just ask you this one last thing on that point. So I'm sitting here saying that I think we're in the start of the next cycle, and some people laugh at you if you say right now, like, I think we're in a bull market. The definition of markets is really just a mark of time, however you want to look at it. I mean, you could look at BTC all time. It's just a permanent, bull market so far. But what I'm saying is just that I don't feel that we are any longer in a bear trend. I think we've entered a new cycle. That's all I'm saying. I'm not at all saying that 70K is right around the corner, or anything like that. I don't even know that we could get to 40K this year. I mean, we'll see kind of how it goes. But what my point is, though, is even though like there's all this macro stuff going on, and you make great points, Ewok, and I know exactly where you're coming from. I said this to you earlier. I mean, maybe it isn't logical. Like, I understand it. I was thinking the same thing. Like with a lot of these things, these interest rates and seeing the real world effects of it and stuff like that. if the market wants to buy crypto, the market wants to buy crypto, and I just think that maybe that's maybe where, I'm not saying you necessarily, but where some people may be looking at the end of the day with this is like we're trying to use logic when it's not logical, and we may just be here now. You know what I mean?
Or when we're using common sense and it's not so common.
Exactly. Yeah. Basically. I mean,
Yeah.
it is crypto. I mean, there isn't a lot of common sense.
Well,
I mean,
so
we've seen a lot of.
crypto's still a very high risk on asset. And as much as we want to hope that one day it doesn't tie to the S&P or even NASDAQ, whatever, I still think it is in that category, and it's one of the higher risk on assets because of the volatility. Now it's also one of the most profitable because of the volatility. So you get both sides of it when you talk volatility. It is a it's a feature of being so volatile, is having the massive gains. And it kind of goes back to what we always say. It's your time in the market is what really counts. Having that long-term horizon at these levels, what if it goes up a couple grand or down a couple grand? In the grand scheme of things, we're all going to be okay. So
Yeah. Either way, right now, I mean, maybe not specifically today because of how much of a pump we had, but I still think it's a great time to be buying if you're not in the market. I mean, we've really been saying that all along, is to get a position. Not financial advice, but if I were you, I personally would want to be getting positions in this market right now. So we could have some interesting things happening over the next 3 months or so. Through May, I would say. So.
Yep.
Turning our attention to another government entity, the SEC, and Gary Gensler making some waves this week. He is in a party mood. First off, last week, we saw, this was really ominous. We started talking about it. It was probably like last Thursday, right after we did this show last week. But the news about Kraken, and all we heard, which, I've been pounding the drum, as it's been my favorite exchange, period. And I think some people share that sentiment, but we saw that there was potentially something coming with Kraken. We didn't know what it was. Basically, just that an announcement concerning Kraken and selling unsecured or securities, basically
securities. Yeah.
So, and then we saw the announcement. It wasn't unbelievably surprising to me what it was, but it was basically just that the ability to stake centralized on Kraken is no more. That's what they were really going after. And basically, Jesse Powell, I saw, who is the CEO of Kraken, was talking about not the rules from the SEC not being clear, and you don't really give them an opportunity to follow them or anything like that, which I think there's probably some legs to. But
sure.
First off, with this one, and I mean, I'd imagine we see this coming to Coinbase eventually too. I mean, this is something I don't think, obviously, nobody should be doing anyway. I mean, you don't want to have anything on a centralized exchange, let alone be sitting there staking. I mean, that's just not something that I would be doing. Even though I'm a fan of Kraken as far as exchanges go. You want to be doing that through DeFi. But what do you make of this? I mean, is this the first of like a million other dominoes to fall? What do you think will happen here in terms of the SEC going after Kraken?
Yeah, I think so. The funny thing was, I did see a comment from Jesse Powell, and he said, "Now that I think about it, I wish we wouldn't have made the agreement to stop all of it, where all these other places are just gonna pay a fine and just keep doing it, right?"
Right.
He said, the process to get all of this stuff done properly takes forever. And they probably make a substantial amount where a $30 million fine isn't going to hurt them. They've probably made 140 million or 160 million or whatever it was. I forget the number. So 30 million, out of that, you still have a nice little, profit maker. So he said, I really wish we wouldn't have committed to stopping it. They had, I think, filed the paperwork. It just never went through. So, that goes to show you how backed up the SEC is. and backwards their processes are. They want to
Yeah.
regulate everything, but they don't really give these guys the opportunity to do it the right way. Because they submit stuff and it just takes forever. They're
Right.
stuck in what not litigation, but you know what I mean. It's
Red
the
tape and
process. Yeah,
yeah.
it's all the red tape and all the hoops they have to jump through to do it. They would just be better off paying a fine and saying it's okay.
Right.
So I can kind of see Coinbase doing the same thing. I don't think they'll ever agree to stop. They probably will just pay a fine and move on. Now, I do know Coinbase is one of the most regulated exchanges in the United States as far as compliance with these guys, with
Right.
the IRS, with the SEC, all that good stuff. So who knows how that'll play out? But if they play their cards right, and all they have to do is pay a fine and just keep doing what they're doing, are they really going to shut them down? Who knows? I doubt it.
Right.
It's just one of those. It's one of those things where I think the SEC, these three-letter agencies, try to get way more involved than what they really need to be because they're, not going after the right things. However, that being said, we hear Gensler, I believe, say, "Not your keys, not your coins." That was kind of
Right.
ironic coming out of his mouth. It was just wanted to say, yeah, Richard Hart said that a long time ago. You're just now catching up. So
Yeah.
I do agree with that. And if that's the only message that's taken from that whole thing, then great, because people need to hear it even from them.
Well, I certainly agree with that message, and somebody actually commented that on one of my videos on YouTube the other day, and I said, and I would say to you too, and I want to know what your thoughts on this is like. Um, he was like, "Dude, didn't you see Gensler's video though?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean, politicians say a lot of things. I mean, I understand that. I mean, I don't know." Look, I mean, there is a limit. There's a regulation. Well, that's kind of dumb to say, but there's a limit to regulation. I mean, now, as far as exchanges, I mean, these are, for the most part, like public companies, obviously, that you can go after and clearly see what they're doing. And, they have KYC processes and stuff
Mhm.
like that. But when you get to DeFi, I mean, it's like a game of whack-a-mole. I don't understand how they could come in and we're going to turn this off. We're going to do this. We're going to, there's so much out there. I mean, look at all these different dexes and liquidity pools and all this crazy, unbelievable stuff that you can get into in DeFi. I mean, I don't know what their plan would be for that long term. I'm sure they want their piece of the pie, so something will
Probably.
come from it. I just don't know what that process would look like. I mean, it's one thing to send letters to all these exchanges and different crypto entities and stuff. I mean, I guess you could do that with DeFi too, but there's so many protocols and so many different ways of going about it. I just don't know how you could regulate it that well.
Well, you look at what they did to Tornado. They just
Yeah,
basically blacklist any address that uses it.
there you go.
So,
Yeah.
when people say, "Well, they can't do anything to us," well, yeah, they can. Look at Tornado and see how that really affected everything.
Hmm.
And then you got people dusting some accounts who had no use of, they were not using it at all, and now they're affected. So, um, we definitely need to get that straightened out too, because there are decentralized protocols that I would be very worrisome if they just shut them off or blacklisted addresses. You know, that being said, I think it would cause development of ways for us to maybe transact with crypto that did not involve these people that were blacklisting addresses. So, you
Mm.
know, there would be different on and off ramps in different countries that maybe we would have to use, or I would just have to leave the United States. So,
Yeah, right. There's
that's
always some
that
way out.
that's
Yeah.
always an option, and then be like, screw you guys, and your rules suck, and your overreach has just gotten to be entirely too far. So there's many ways to look at it and quite a few solutions. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but we don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, it's a real shame because I mean, the greatest country in the world, and sometimes it's just the the slapping the regulation and slapping more and more red tape on people. It really sucks because you really try to limit what people are able to do, and they do want you to stay that way. It's like They do want people to stay in their lane, remain in the middle class, and not really strive for anything else. And that's, they're winning for the most part. I mean, that's what most people do. So,
yeah.
But also, I mean, we saw the news about Paxos, the BUSD, the Binance USD. And then the big thing that came out yesterday that many people mistakenly reported, it wasn't just Watch Guru or whoever I sent you the link of, but all these people were sending out that Circle, USDC, those guys, got one of these Wells notices that all these other entities are apparently getting right now, which would have been huge. And, everybody was retweeting it like, oh, it's time for war and all this stuff. Like, they're going after USDC, which is the, obvious for years now, premier stablecoin that people use to kind of transact and onboard in and out of crypto and things like that. BlackRock is involved. This is why it didn't make any sense to me. Like when I sent it to you, I said, what the hell is this? And you were in shock. And then, I think minutes, maybe a couple hours later, those tweets are just deleted because apparently that wasn't true. Circle themselves said that. So yeah, first off, what would you have made if that had been true? And what do you make of what's really happening? Because what's really happening looks like that a lot of these different entities are receiving the Wells notices from the SEC. I think Gensler's on scorched earth mode basically right now after SBF and FTX.
Yeah.
But Circle was not one of them. And I wonder what that means for USDC's future as well. And I mean that in a positive way for it. But
yeah, well, you know what it means. It means that BlackRock has a lot of control over what really happens behind closed doors. They're large enough, trillions of dollars of investments through BlackRock. We've always kind of said that we need to be really careful what Circle does because of BlackRock. That's why I was, when you had sent that, I was in shock. And when I finally got a chance to read it, it was gone. Yeah. So now, as far as regulating, they don't like stable coins. They don't, it takes away from their business model of we need to use the dollar. It also takes away from the business model of creating a CBDC. So, depending on what their long-term game plan is with that, they want to have as few stable coins as they possibly can because they don't want the competition. Is what I really think is happening. But BlackRock has enough pull to where they may be one of the only ones standing. Now, that being said, who was it? Gary from Funding Jim. He touts the trust token quite a bit because it's not really a stable coin. It's apparently a trust escrow with the bank, and you just wire it to trust and it ends up in your account. So that may be something that we can look in if things get too heated with USDC, and then on back to kind of the original thing, CZ said he didn't even really have anything to do with the BUSD. He was only agreeing to let Paxos use the name somehow. Did you read that as well?
I didn't really. No, I didn't see what he said.
Yeah. So, like I said, I've been really busy the last couple of days and haven't had a chance to do as much homework as I wanted to. But I try to catch some of these things. And I did see that CZ was like, well, Binance BUSD isn't really our coin. We just agreed to use the likeness and our name for Paxos. They basically run it and control it. So that's something I do want to look more into to really see what's going on.
Yeah, I was trying to find it as you were speaking there, but yeah, that makes sense. Oh yeah, he posted a whole thread on it 2 days ago. In summary, BUSD is issued and redeemed by Paxos, and funds are SAFU. We were informed by Paxos they have been directed to cease minting new BUSD by the New York Department of Financial Services. Paxos is regulated by NYDFS. BUSD is a stablecoin wholly owned and managed by Paxos. So he kind of goes on, but basically is it's pretty long thread. But yeah, okay. Go ahead and check that out. Anybody that would like to, but basically trying to clear his name out of it anyway, which CZ is skilled at doing.
Yeah,
He
does that
tends to
often.
walk a tightrope. Yeah, exactly. What do you make of the okay, let's turn our attention back to USDC. So I think you and I are in agreement that for now anyway, we don't think anything is happening to it. Not only is nothing happening to it, but it seems like it'll be the chosen one actually because of all the big money behind it already. There's probably some friends, I imagine, between these two organizations already. So, I mean, what do you think? USDC is the one that just kind of gets to, run scot-free as, without any issue. Yeah.
Yep, they get the free pass as far as I can tell, and because of who they are. That's kind of what I see happening.
And I said this to you earlier. I mean, like, yeah, is that unfair? Yeah. I mean, life isn't really fair, but in terms of regulation, I would rather just have one be chosen because, the thing is, like, that's been the big thing with Bitcoin and crypto since the beginning. It's just like, the war against regulation, but it's like a necessary evil for more adoption. It's just a big argument since the beginning of time. And if there have to be these other sacrificial lambs, so to speak, for USDC to be the one that they get in bed with, whatever. I mean, it's just kind of, it's the one we're using anyway. I mean,
for the most part, it'll be interesting to see what happens when PulseChain launches, because I know there's a couple groups that are planning on launching some stables there. It's going to be, well, we'll see. We'll see how many eyes it gets on it and how quickly, as far as that goes. Now, I don't know that they're pegged to a US dollar. I think they were supposed to be pegged to PulseChain. So when you say stable, I'm not sure how that'll work. But anyway, I know there's supposed to be some stable type coins that are going to be launched when PulseChain comes out. Should be interesting.
Yeah. And we're going to get a little bit more into PulseChain here in a moment, as well as the rest of the Richard Heart ecosystem. But I want to ask you real quick, Ewok, and if everybody watching, please do, if you're enjoying the stream, go ahead and hit the like button, sub to the channels. We very much appreciate it. Thanks for being here. And I want to ask you, Ewok, with regulation coming, 2023, even leading up to this year, a lot of people have been saying that this would be the year of regulation. Well, especially after, everything that happened with SBF at the end of 2022. I do think that Gensler is probably kind of on a mission to find whatever he can after missing, what happened with SBF and all that. So, do you, what do you think one needs to do? And these are going to be basic core principles to like you and I, and maybe any other person that's been investing in this market for some time. But what should be the strategy for dealing with regulation? If you're a crypto investor, what are some of the keys that you need to think about and look out for and take care of if you're new to this market and getting into it? Because we're going to get that. I mean, like, as this year goes on, especially towards the end of it, there's going to be people watching these streams here right now, as well as a lot of other crypto streams that have never even been interested in crypto before, so that's going to happen. So what would you say to those people? I mean, what are the things you need to look out for with the potential of certain types of regulation on the horizon?
As we can see, they're going after stables right now. You said because of what they missed. I think it's more what they got caught doing.
I kind of threw out the quotation marks.
I know, but I wanted to.
I didn't want to get demonetized. So if you,
I know. Well, my channel's not monetized, so I don't care. But I think it's the truth. I think Gensler kind of got caught with his pants down because of all the donations, and then when the House of Cards fell, he got exposed, and now I think that's why he's trying to set the world on fire with everything else. He's trying to make up for that and look like the savior. And so what do we tell new people? Well, stable coins are important because there are times where you do want to de-risk or take profits. You have to take some off the table So you want to get good at dollar cost averaging in and dollar cost averaging out when you've met what your some of your targets. So it's really going to be important to see how this all plays out. I don't want to give advice that in 2 months or 3 months could be completely off. um we kind of have to we kind of have to see what they do next. We're getting a clear picture that centralized staking and centralized yield um is a no-no, and we've been saying that for a long time anyway, is to
Right.
to not keep your stuff there. That's how it goes missing. Celsius, Luna, BlockFi, all these different platforms, it should be enough of a telltale sign for you to learn your lesson. So maybe people coming in the markets don't know that, though. So they might have missed that whole thing. We have to keep reminding people
Yeah.
of that, and custodying your own coins, and all of these things that are meant to protect yourself, are going to be critical, especially moving forward with regulation. So, I mean, that's about as far as we can advise people right now, like I said before, we really know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and that's really what I was looking for is and just we say it all the time, obviously, but stop dealing with centralized exchanges. So
Mhm.
if you are onboarded into one like a Coinbase or whatever else, and you buy your initial stack there, just make sure that you do have some kind of a
Yeah.
software hardware wallet to put it into and custody your own coins, like Ewok said. I actually just ran into an old friend a couple of weeks ago at a party, and I don't even know. Oh, he asked me about if I was still in this other market I used to be in or something like that. And I was like, well, I pretty much dedicate all my time to crypto now at this point. And he was telling me how he had all this stuff sitting on Coinbase that he bought. It was the classic story of like somebody, a novice crypto person in a bull cycle. He was like, yeah, I bought a whole bunch over 60K and it's just been sitting on Coinbase and I have it staked on there. And I was just like, oh my God, like how much do I want to actually get into
Yeah.
it with this person, just kind of educating them and stuff like that. And he was like, well, it's only a few grand, I'm not as concerned about it, but I understand the wallet stuff and everything. And, it's one of those things that we're going to get more of that. We
Yeah.
forget about it because we're a year and a half or so removed from the fever pitch of 2021, but we're going to get there again, maybe sometime late next year. So it's important as we do get there to talk more and more about those things and get people ready for that and to understand that the regulation stuff. I mean, I don't think it should scare people. I really don't think it should because this isn't something that you can really stop. Like Bitcoin and a lot of these other products are like Hex, for example, are code. I mean,
Yeah.
it's code that has been created.
Yep.
So it's not it's not something you can take away or make stop working or anything like that. Now, there may be other things that they can do here and there, but they can't just take that away from you.
Right.
So, yeah, just make sure you're doing things in a DeFi fashion. But I'll let you speak to that on Hex specifically, too, because I mean, as far as smart contracts go, I mean, it's probably the best. I mean, with how Richard Hart designed it, the fact that it's been up 100% of the time since it launched. Talk a little bit about that. I'll let you just kind of do, since we are kind of gearing towards for people that are getting into crypto and worrying maybe about regulation.
Yeah.
Funny enough, the people that like to talk about Hex being a scam and all these problems with it and everything, it's one of the few things in crypto that is really done the right way and is true crypto. So tell me a little bit about, talk a little bit about Hex basically and why it's mainly foolproof, I think, to a lot of these regulations.
It is. First, I want to touch on the person that you ran across. I do think as people that care like we do, we kind of do have some sort of responsibility to try and help these people along.
Right.
It can only benefit us down the road, and by benefit us, I mean make communities and people stronger, not benefit us by padding our own wallets or anything like that.
Right.
Who knows what the guy owns, but just for their sake, knowing that people are trying to look out for them, and then when they come back to you later and say I lost it all, you can say, well, I tried to tell you, I'm sorry.
Right.
I hate to be that guy that says I told you so, but
Yeah.
at that point you can just be like, you're a dumbass.
Yeah.
I tried to help you, but we do kind of have some of that responsibility as people that care. So even if it's a half hour, 45 minutes of our time. I know, our time can get expensive, but um, I think it's worth it to try and lead people in the right direction, at least when you come across them. Now, as far as Hex goes, yeah, I agree completely 100%. We've got a triple audited, there's two security audits, one economics audit, no admin keys, no backdoors, up and running 3 years with no hiccup whatsoever. So yeah, it doesn't get any better than that. And what we've come to see over the years is usually the people that are yelling scam are the scammers themselves, or
Right.
they're just trying to get you into whatever it is that they hold. Eh, See it time and time again. They try to yell the loudest. They pull up these old narratives. Whether you like Richard Hart or not, it doesn't change the fact of all the things that I just listed about what Hex is. Um, the one argument people have is the OA, and we do have to trust them. But you kind of got to have trust in just about any coin that you're in, because if you look at the top 100 addresses of most coins, they're pretty centralized, just like Hex is.
Right.
Over time, they do get diluted, but I can probably send you a list of 20 coins that have way more control than what the OA has in Hex, that I'm sure you've heard of. So, you know,
Yeah.
people have to be aware of that. And some of these narratives that people hear, they're not doing any kind of research, and that's the big thing is look for yourself. When people are screaming that loudly about something, either yes, it's a scam, or the other option is they're intimidated by it, and it scares them. you know it scares them because it could take a portion of the bag that they're holding and trying to get you into. So
Yeah.
I think you just have to be really um understanding and learn how to do some research. I know, when you tell a brand new person to do your own research, it's not always successful because that brand new person really doesn't know where to start. They don't know what to look into. They don't know um, how to read an audit or anything like that, or where to even find that stuff. Most of them probably have never even heard of Etherscan. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of things, and there's a lot of entry courses that are out there. And I know Crypto Coffee has one. It's probably $150. It's pretty cheap for what he offers. And you know like I said, our time can get expensive. So pointing somebody in that direction, number one, it gives them skin. It puts, they have skin in the game. If they're paying for some education, they're going to care a lot more than if you go to their house and sit down and spend 2 hours and they haven't invested anything.
Very
You
true.
help them get started, you help them do this, you help them do that. They haven't done anything yet, other than throw a few bucks in that they may or may not care about. So I think we need to sort people out that way, by putting them into some of these educational things, where they need to pay a little bit to get educated, and that will just weed them out from the beginning. Because, like I said, once you have skin in the game, you care a lot more. I just
Yeah.
think that's the route we need to start focusing on while we can. While we're chopping around at these levels, whether we go up a little bit, whether we go down a little bit, whether you're right or we get in a fight about the bear market, bull market thing.
Right.
It doesn't matter. We're at good levels, and with our long time horizon, it's going to work out.
Yeah, and you make a great point about having skin in the game. I think not even like in the cost of education, but I think some people maybe just hesitate to get into the market too much because of, it being a volatile asset or just wanting to like fully understand it before they get in or whatever. I mean, if you just throw a few $100s in, even if you're just buying Bitcoin and Ethereum, just to understand it, hold it a little bit, realize, okay, I'm really not getting any returns from this old school Bitcoin thing. And then you want to get into something that offers you a little bit more volatility. I think that that's all valuable. Like, I mean, there are even people, there are people who've been in crypto even for some time that don't transact on the network every day and don't have a lot of familiarity, like doing tons of transactions or whatever, yield farming or whatever it may be, so there's lots. It's kind of like a nice little choose your own adventure thing with crypto. I mean,
Yeah.
you can be a hodler, you can be a swing trader, you can probably get wrecked being a day trader, you can yield farm. I mean, there's so many things you can do. But I think just kind of in the investor mindset of hodling is really what appeals to most people. And hey, if you pick the right ones, which I'll hint right now, you can almost throw a dart and pick a pretty good one. I mean, with where we are, I think in the market and where we're going to go, if you're looking at like the top couple hundred or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, regardless, just kind of summing up and going back to where you and I both think the market could be at right now, we're not really that far apart on how much better prices you could get. I don't know that we'll be able to get below 20K again, or maybe by a little bit. You think we definitely will, but either way, those numbers aren't so extremely far away from each other that somebody shouldn't be getting into the market right now.
Sure.
So,
And keep in mind, when you say 20K, even if it is 20 or 15, say we get to 15 again, 20 is an easier number because if it does get to 100,000, you've only 5 extra money. You know, and that's going way over the last all-time high. Whereas, you look at a coin like Hex right now at I don't even know where we're at. We were
5 cents.
pushing, 5.5 cents, 5.4.
Oh, nice.
All-time high was 54, 56 cents. So right there's a 10x.
Yeah.
Just to get back to the all-time high. And
Right.
you still can't get it on any major exchanges. It's not viral. It's not a common thing where you hear TV shows talking about sending Bitcoin. There's so many things that are just haven't happened yet. PulseChain hasn't happened yet. You don't have your free airdrop, of the coins that you buy. There's just so many benefits, I think, with Hex that far outweigh the Bitcoin. And even at this point, Ethereum, I saw it spike to 700 Gwei today.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's talk about that. Not yet. Finish your point, but yeah, I want to talk
But
about that for a
it's
minute.
got problems. So it's going to be limited, and that's kind of stuff is going to catch up. I still think it will flip Bitcoin because of all the smart contracts and the ability of what it really is. But Bitcoin is just getting to be old technology. I don't think that there's anything wrong with having some in your portfolio. It's like one of those, how you rank your own retirement portfolio. You have your aggressive things, you have your moderate things, and you have your safe things. And, Bitcoin's probably one of those safe things. You're not going to see massive returns, but, you're also very, very, very far away from getting rich in a couple years on it, because it's going to take a lot of energy that most people just don't have to put in to make the kind of gains that that you really want. So
Time or money
yeah,
and energy. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So Bitcoin, well, and with your analogy there, Ewok. So Bitcoin is basically your money market. Ethereum is your bond. And then most of the alts are going to be your like high aggressive growth stocks, I guess, or international or something like that.
yeah.
Penny stocks, maybe.
Can
So,
I answer Andrew here real quick? When
yeah.
I say flip Bitcoin, I mean overall market cap.
Right.
I think it will take the number one spot from Bitcoin is what I mean by flipping. So
Yeah. Yeah, and just to put that in perspective, Bitcoin's current market cap is 475 billion, and ETH is a little less than half that, about 207 billion. So,
Right.
um, yeah, so gonna be interesting. Yeah, I think that will happen, and my God, what a crazy time that would be. But
It's gonna be funny to hear some of these guys crying, man. They
oh
may have to find a way. So I don't know if you were in then, but when Nomics came out and things were going hot for Hex, and they had to not show some of the supply because they said, well, it's really not circulating. So and at that point, I think we were 3 or 4, and things were
yeah,
getting interesting, and it put us all the way back to, I don't know,
like
16 or something
9
like that.
or yeah, I
But
remember that.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, people were feeling threatened. So I can only imagine these Bitcoin maxis whenever it happens, and they may have to reorganize it somehow so that Bitcoin stays number one. Well, it
I could
should be
definitely
interesting.
see that. Yeah,
Yeah.
crypto censorship. Yeah,
Yep.
nothing like that hypocrisy. But I real quick, and I don't want to get way into this because it could derail us a bit. But you just talked about the 700 Gwei. I know I saw that yesterday. Did that actually happen again today? I saw you posted it on Twitter earlier too.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
I don't know. It was 3 or 4 o'clock. I don't even know what time it was. I saw the. So here I always monitor the gas prices.
Yeah, same here.
Can you see my stream?
It's coming. We're at 34 Gwei right now, which is pretty good. Oh wow, yeah, look at that spike.
So yeah, right now it's 36, 36, 37. This is a really good site. But right here, 712. Uh, and that was, well, we've ticked over a new day now. But
Ah,
yes,
yeah.
it was this afternoon, hour 18 of today. So 6 hours minus 8. It was probably 2 p.m.
Yeah.
ish. So yeah.
That's 2 days in a row that we, met those heights, and,
Well, I don't
whoever
see it.
answered you.
I don't see
What's
it
that?
yesterday. I don't see
I
it
I I
yesterday.
I definitely saw when I was refreshing yesterday at one point, but, um, maybe it's not showing up on the chart, but I saw the answer to your tweet though, and the person is definitely correct. So it's this Blur token. It's the airdrop for, I guess that's a new NFT platform. I obviously don't know tons about it. I've looked a little bit into it, but a lot of people think it's going to be bigger than OpenSea, or they like it better than OpenSea. And it launched at $5, did the typical, airdrop thing. I think it's like 90 cents right now after rallying up from like 60 or whatever. But I am interested. I mean, it's like a fever pitch over it right now. And obviously those Gwei numbers kind of put Zen's Gwei numbers when it launched to shame, actually. But that was another gas guzzler people were pretty pissed at for a little while. But
So does it or
yeah.
does it not have anything to do with our favorite vampire?
Oh, Blur?
Yeah.
No, not at all. I was just
Oh,
comparing like high gas fees. Oh, no, Blur already has like a massive following, I believe,
oh,
and
okay.
I
Then
think
what
this
I
is
read
much
was
bigger.
incorrect. I thought somebody had said it was partially due to something that he was doing. So
Not that I know of.
okay.
No, I don't. I don't think there's any relation to Jack or Zen or anything like that. But no, I think it's own NFT platform, and no,
Okay.
he's obviously doing stuff that could be assisting that. But yeah, Blur's been the main thing that's going on. People trying to claim all their tokens and stuff like that. It's something I'm going to keep a beat on it and just kind of pay attention to it a little bit and maybe let the dust settle. I mean, it's kind of it's funny how like you didn't know much about it, I didn't know much about it, but that's how things are in crypto. And then like there's this whole community that's like obsessed about it, was waiting for this airdrop and everything. And yeah, I'll probably follow along and read a bit more about it, but I'd like to see dust settle. Early times like this on anything, it's like
Yeah.
just let it go. But
Well, yeah, you can't afford those prices, let alone do anything at that point in time. You're better off just waiting.
yeah, well, yeah, the gas as well, yeah. So, yeah. So, hey, if you are here watching this and enjoying the information, go ahead and hit the like button. We very much appreciate it. Any kind of PulseChain rumblings that you have heard, Ewok, continuing on the Richard Hart ecosystem? I haven't seen too many RH tweets himself. over the last week since whenever his last one about a week ago. But we're
Yeah,
about due for one maybe.
we
But
are
yeah,
due
what do you?
for one, but I haven't
Yeah,
heard anything. The last I heard was, the bug that they had found, where the Aragon client was creating a different Merkle tree.
yeah.
I don't know if it got fixed. I haven't heard anything. Um, Hopefully it is. I heard some people say that Dev Kyle showed up in the GitLab or GitHub, whatever it is.
Hmm.
Um, so he's maybe lending a hand with something. Very intelligent guy. He's one of the main reasons, if I haven't ever said it before, he's one of the main reasons that we have the T-share system. Um,
Mm.
so it was his magical mind that kind of came up with that whole um, compound interest based on share rate. So
Hmm.
extremely intelligent guy. So yeah, he made an appearance in there, and he's lending some expertise or knowledge. Yeah, I haven't heard anything though, other than just more speculation of, you know, the next week or the next 2 weeks or 2 more weeks. It's the same news, nothing concrete until we actually hear it from the big man himself.
Well, I think that maybe this will be an interesting question because we, as well as many other channels, have covered PulseChain ad nauseum for over a year now. But what do you think would be, in terms of a timeline? Most people would have said this at this point last year, but most people think that it will launch this year. Uh, when do you think? Not saying I don't think I don't know how much Richard is necessarily timing the market. I think he is, but there also is probably really stuff going on, obviously,
Right.
as far as development. And ETH did change to proof of stake during this time, and blah blah blah. But what do you think about when would it start to become time where like look, Hex is a fever pitch ecosystem. I don't think there's ever going to be a time where it's like, oh, Pulse Chain came out too late and people don't care anymore. I don't. It's going to be hard to get to that with this community. But when would you start to consider like the missing of the window, I guess, so to speak? Because it really, I know you still think we're going lower, but I feel like right now is a pretty damn optimal time if it were to come out. Like right now would be phenomenal, or this quarter anyway, maybe quarter two. But really,
Yeah.
I think like as long as it is this year, you've got the wind in your sails.
Yeah,
I
I
feel
agree.
like,
I
yeah,
agree. And I think quarter two would be ideal. I think if we can get testnet 3 version 3 out this quarter, and then that would kind of carry everybody over, and you know we wouldn't have all the people saying, here we go again, another year.
mm,
Let me fud everything and try and sink the price just because I'm pissed off that I overextended myself and put too much money in the sacrifice. There is that.
yeah,
Whether they're pissed off or upset, no matter how it goes, they're invested. So you've got a lot of people um, that are have an interest in when it does launch, so to say. Um, so yeah, I think ideally we get testnet between now and the end of March, and then quarter two, I think would be a good time. I still don't know that Richard thinks the bottom is in either, because
right,
we haven't heard him say anything about it either. He said, I'll stop bragging about calling the top when I call the bottom, and he hasn't done that either. So I don't know what he thinks. Plus, we've got the documentary, all of that. So there's a lot of timing, and we know Richard is very good at marketing. If there's one thing that he does extremely well, it's market things and get eyes on the new things. So he's not a coder. We do know that. He's not
yeah,
one of the ones writing code. So he'll stick to what he does best. And I do think, while he's not timing it, the market is to in a sense, I think while he still doesn't think that it's bottomed, let's get as much done and make it as good as we can until that actually happens. So he's taking advantage of, I think, the time to make things better. And
Yeah.
obviously, we know it's close. Had those clients all synced up, I think we probably would have had something by now. It just didn't, and I hope when they fixed it, or if they fixed it, they didn't find something else too. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're 100% right with what you're saying about, maybe not thinking that the bottom is in, but hey, if I still have some more time, let's perfect everything as much as humanly possible, which
yeah,
we know he is prone to do. I mean, that's
yeah,
what happened with Hex itself,
oh yeah,
and that's why, one of the many talking points and bragging points from him and any Hexakin is the 100% uptime, and especially in a world where so many of these layer ones, Solana,
fail,
constantly are down and have all
yeah.
this stuff going on. So it is a big talking point. Um, cool. Well, that's what we got on Pulse. We'll continue to monitor that. And then to kind of finish thing off, Ewok, I want to ask you this because there is a lot of, what does Sagar say here? Can we go to 30K before correction? I mean, define correction, I guess, like as far as how big of one. I'll put it this way. I think, yes, when we hit 30K, we'll be due for a correction, certainly. But
Yeah.
I'll let you take it, Ewok.
Well, I kind of agree with you there. If we go to 30K, the bear market is pretty much confirmed over.
You mean, oh,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, I mean, I don't think we get that high. In fact, I don't think we get past 25, 26K without that confirmation. So to answer your question, I just don't see enough volume to get it there. Um, I think we need to see the correction down before we get to that point. So
I think we'll get that's the thing is like, sizes of corrections. I mean, yeah, I don't think we're going to go straight through to 30K right now or anything, but I could see that by quarter two, frankly. I mean, I could see something like that happening. But I think once we break that 25.5K or so, I think we could be between that 25.5 up to 30 for a while. We're seeing all this action between 20 and 24 and stuff
yeah,
like that right now since we've crossed it. I think it would be the same thing between 25 and 30. We're not going to blast through 30. I think most
no,
people agree with that. So
no. However, if we do bounce down to that 15K area, I think if it doesn't continue to go lower, it won't spend a whole lot of time there. I
mhm.
do think it, I think we make that bounce. I think it corrects pretty quickly. And another reason why, if we hit support at 15 and it doesn't go further, then we can pretty much confirm that that was a double bottom, just like there was a double top. And, the double top did go a little higher. So I don't know
True.
why the double bottom couldn't go a little lower. So that would probably get us into that 12, 13K area, maybe 10, 12, who knows. And then, like I said, I don't think if it hits that, there are going to be people backing the truck up and making some major orders that it won't stay there long. I think we get back into this 20K area pretty quickly afterwards. And then you see your steady rise, bounce around, rise, bounce around, rise. It's going to be a boring year, guys. I really think it's going to be a rather sideways year until we get some sort of pivot in the major markets. That's just the way I see it happening.
Well, this has definitely been an exciting month so far anyway. So yeah, I mean, we will see. It depends. I think it also depends on, I mean, it was pretty damn boring at the end of 2022. There was nothing going on there for a little while. But yeah, it depends on your level of interest in crypto. If you're here every single day, like Ewok and I are, it probably won't be that boring to you. There is a lot of stuff happening right now, but yeah. What was
Yeah,
his follow up there?
we said Fed will slap all market in March that I believe with all data. What do you think? We talked about that, so have to
Yeah.
you have to rewind, watch us
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, I think there'll be another rate hike, but we'll see how bad it ends up being. So,
Yeah.
I want to finish off here, Ewok. So you messaged me about this the other day to talk a little bit about like some on-chain interesting things with Hex as well. You were talking about good accounting done on this huge God whale stake that I guess had
Yeah.
just been running out. Actually, did that culminate in an answer yet, or where are we at with that? First off, just describe to everybody watching the whole scenario. I'll let you handle it.
So the God whale had a stake. I think it ended um on January whatever 20 something. Anyway, it was bleeding out. So most people know, as you end your hex stake, you have 2 weeks to either run the good accounting function or end the stake, which mints your new coins. Um, and it didn't do it. It was 300 million hex. And I think it was like 47,000 T shares. Um,
Wow.
that were just sitting there bleeding out. So there were a lot of people that were excited that it was bleeding. And I had kind of started talking, and I don't like to get into arguments with people what's better. Um, if it bleeds out, it bleeds out over the course of 2 years, basically. It's 100 weeks, so just under 2 years. But it bleeds out at 1% per week, and that gets all divided up to the stakers. Well, actually, half of it goes to the OA. So you have to remember, half of the penalties go to the OA, half of it go to the rest of the stakers. So I think a lot of people forget about that. And I said, no, it's better if somebody runs the good accounting and gets rid of those 47,000 T shares that are just sitting there because we're all getting diluted. The second that good accounting function was run, we went from 6 to like 7.6, 6.3 to 7.6 hex per T share per day. So that's how much it was diluting everybody else. So I think it's a better play, and we actually get more out of it if you're staked. Um, if the good accounting function is run on a very large stake like that. So, 7.6 hex per T share jumping up from 6.3 is pretty nice. If you have a nice amount of T shares, it will really add up a lot faster than what half of those penalties would be over 2 years. You have to take the,
Right.
if it were to bleed, and who knows, who's to say it wouldn't stop in a month, right? So it really wouldn't add up to be that much. However, we dilute and get rid of those T shares now. Um, it does help with the T share rate. So now that doesn't say that he can't end it, actually finish the stake and restake that 300 million plus more again, and we're kind of back to where he won't get as many. He won't have 47,000, but it's going to dilute the pool a little bit, so we'll have to see how it works out. But I really think that the smart play was to have the good accounting run and increase our T-share rate. So
Yeah.
somebody else had asked, though, is did he not claim his hedron on purpose? And the question that I asked, and I'm not sure of, that I'm gonna find out, was if somebody runs the good accounting feature for you, um, does that take away the ability to mint your hedron? I think it does, because those T shares go away, and I'm pretty sure that hedron is calculated by the number of T shares
Right.
times the number of days times if you had a bonus or not. And if those T shares are no longer there, which they're not when you run good accounting, I think you lose the option to even mint the hedron.
Yeah, you
So
should. I would think so. Yeah.
I think so. So I'm not sure. Maybe if Crypto Sloth can't answer that,
No.
I'll ask Alex maybe and see if because that's an interesting question. I wonder if there's a way to do some sort. And it's probably too late now because the contract is locked. there's probably no way to do a good accounting feature with Hedron.
You mean specifically just with the good accounting, right? And that scenario, whether or not you would still be able to mint the Hedron.
Right, because I know if
Yeah.
you end the stake, you can't.
Right.
Like if
Right.
if you forget to mint your Hedron and you end the stake, it's gone.
Right.
But I think it's the same way. If But what I'm saying is somebody else could screw you over with the good accounting feature if they run it, and even within the 2 weeks, I don't think once your stake ends, somebody can run that good accounting feature for you.
Mhm.
So it could be this is kind of, maybe I shouldn't even talk about it, but it could be a malicious play on people's parts to see when a whale ends if their stake matures, and they hurry up and good accounts it for them, it would eliminate them getting all of that Hedron. So that's kind of where I was headed with that thought.
Interesting. Yeah.
Um,
That is a good one for Crypto Sloth or Alice.
y-
Yeah. Yeah.
so like I said, I would hope people wouldn't do that to somebody and you know take that away from somebody, but I think it could be done. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah, interesting stuff. Well, hey, I think that pretty much covers everything we wanted to get to tonight. It's been a good one. If you guys are still here and have enjoyed the content, please do hit the like. We very much appreciate it on both channels or whichever one of ours you happen to be watching. Good conversation tonight. Moral of the story, with more regulation hitting crypto, not only in 2023, but in the years to come. It's unavoidable. It's going to happen. Just make sure that you're leveraging yourself in the best way possible. Get off of exchanges, get into DeFi, learn it if you don't know it already, and, make sure you're taking those precautions. And to me, a lot of the content that I'm kind of creating and thinking about lately is, don't be afraid to push all your chips in right now. Not financial advice. You do whatever you want. But I personally, since November, have been just emptying clip after clip basically into the market here. So that's where I'm at. And remember to look at the big picture, Oh, cool. Charles is back. We'll look at that in a second here. But remember to look at the big picture. I mean, we are still at a $1 trillion market cap for crypto worldwide right now. 1.15 trillion at the moment. That's a very low number. We were in the billions not long ago. So just remember that and remember to zoom out. But what do we got from Charles here?
looks like 1,000 yen. High again from Japan. Will Hex, Pulse, and PLSX move together market wise via Hart's Law? If so, is there any reason to use Hex copies on PulseChain to ratio trade for PLS or PLSX? Wrecked. Good question, Charles. Johnny Chaos has been talking about this extensively. So it's something that a lot of people aren't thinking about. And the way that liquidity is going to be bonded together. If when these things are created and the liquidity is entered for the exchanges, we all know that the OA can set liquidity pretty high, high enough to where the average person isn't going to be able to mess with it. If they set it, for example, one hex equals round number 200 pulse at the time. If it's bonded heavily enough, it will always stay to that ratio. Um, so yeah, it could be a bad move to trade your hex in for something else, because if you look at a 200x gain in Pulse, you know, it would almost mean that Hex is going to do a 200x gain as well. So it begs the question of, which one do I trade? Do I ratio trade? I wouldn't ratio trade at all.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, at all. Sometimes, guys, sitting on your hands and watching is the best move that you can make, especially those first couple days. You're not going to know, and there's going to be so much happening that the ratios are going to be changing constantly. You're taking a huge risk that when you finally calculate what you think it might be and you hit that button, what if somebody does something 3 seconds before you, and the block hasn't finished yet, and you end up wrecking yourself? I mean, it would be awful, and I don't want to see anybody do that to themselves. I think it's so very risky. Now, I did, advise some people, listen, if you're not in and you didn't sacrifice for Pulse or PulseX, buy your hex now, and you'll be able to trade for some of that. I still think hex is going to be a good play. I think the liquidity is going to be set to the point also with hex on ETH and hex on Pulse, to where they assume some sort of parity, and they could move together as well. What it is going to do is create some arbitrage opportunities for sure. So, yeah, man, I would not play with the ratio trading at all. Just my advice: do what you want; it's your money. But I think there's going to be more people that come out badly than make good financial choices and decisions by trying to ratio trade. I just don't think it's a smart play. And like I said, sometimes sitting on your hands and just watching is the best thing that you can literally do. And wait that couple weeks. We'd look at Hex when it launched on December 3rd. Didn't bottom out until, I believe, 33 days later. I believe it was day 33, which I think was January 5th. It made the bottom, and then it proceeded to go up forever until it hit the top. So 33 days, we have that to kind of base what happened on. And I wouldn't get excited to do anything in the first couple of days. There's going to be people that are upset that it took this long and they're going to want to get out. And who's to say you don't ratio trade into something and then they dump and the price goes down? So, keep an eye on the price. Once the bridges come into play and we get a price and you can kind of see, well, is the floor above or below the sacrifice amount? I don't see it getting too far below, but it could really dip below the sacrifice amount even. And if that happens, there's going to be people jumping on those prices because obviously if they sacrificed and got a good deal, I mean, just remember those coins were a lot more than what they're worth now. So it did preserve some of the value, a lot of the value when they sacrificed. So believe me, there's going to be people ready for that price to dip even below sacrifice values, and it should stay there, or it should bounce out of that area. It shouldn't stay there too long, but it could. We'll have to wait and see. Again, ratio trading, I don't advise it.
Easier said than done too, right? I mean, it's psychologically, it will be difficult. I mean, those first couple of days, there'll be so much action, so many things going on, and you're going to feel like you want to get a position. Especially, I saw you had, I think, sacked for PulseX, Charles. But for people who haven't sacked for either, it's going to be very difficult to sit on your hands and not do anything about it. You're going to want to get a position in there basically, but yeah, it's tough to wait it out. But I mean, time after time, not even just with Hex, but any of these crypto airdrops, I mean, apples and oranges, but still, It's still crypto. We just talked about Blur a few minutes ago and this thing going on with it right now. All these people got this airdrop. It was $5. Now it's under $1 right now.
Yeah.
So,
and the Hexicans have kicked ass with airdrops, guy. Hey, all the stuff we've gotten for free. It's hard to get rid of one coin for another because you're going to want a position in all of them. Just how much? Wait a little while, let it kind of even itself out, let it find that bottom. You're not going to miss out by trying to do stuff before the bridge comes into play. And Grounded in Hex, thank you, we appreciate it. Smash the like and subscribe to both of our channels if you would. If you're subscribed to one and not the other, we both appreciate it. We do broadcast this on both of our streams, so we appreciate you coming in and watching.
Yeah, very much so. Thanks, Grounded in Hex and Charles and everybody else for stopping in here tonight. Hope everybody had a good time. Yeah, great discussion tonight. We will see where the market is next Wednesday. We are here every single Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the U.S. We'll be back on the 22nd of February. See what Mr. Market has in store for us by then. But any parting thoughts, Ewok?
No, man, I'm good. I'm enjoying our discussions, and I did want to thank Jake had me on his stream with GDP Crypto, and it should be coming out tomorrow, the next day. He records them, pre-records them, and then puts them out. So just wanted to give him a shout out, and we had a good discussion, and that was fun. So.
Sweet. Your infidelity rubbing it in my face again.
Yeah, I know. I cheated on you. Went on another channel, but
yeah. Well, kudos to you. Getting yourself out there a little bit. So that is definitely good. Yeah. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. Hit the like before you get out of here. And we will see you again next week right here on the Creed of Crypto podcast. Take care.